Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to our first top 5 episode. Today we will focus on 5 unsolved serial killer cases. There is no specific order, but we have chosen the best unsolved. Now sit back and relax. The Colonial Parkway Murder. Between 1986 to 1989 in Colonial Parkway in Virginia, the Colonial Killer killed 3 couples, adding up to 8 people in total. There is one couple also that is missing, but they are presumed dead as of now. The first couple, United States Naval Academy class of 1981 graduate Kathleen Thomas, 27 years old, and College of Williams and Mary Sr., Rebecca Ann Rudowski, 21 years old, were both found on October 12, 1986, Columbus Day weekend. The couple was found inside Thomas' 1980 Honda Civic overlooking Chapman Annex along the Colonial Parkway. Autopsy that was performed showed rope burns on their necks and wrists, signs of strangulation. Their throats had been slashed and diesel fuel was poured everywhere, but it failed to ignite. Their purses were all still in the car and there was no signs of a robbery or sexual assault. But Thomas did look like she struggled. There was hair under her fingernails. On September 22, 1987, 20-year-old David Noblin and 14-year-old Robin Edwards were found shot to death in the Ragged Island Wildlife Refuge on the south shore of the James River in Isle of Wight County near Smithfield, Virginia. Noblin's black Ford Ranger pickup truck was found at the refugee parking area next to the James River Bridge with the wipers and radio on, and some articles of clothing inside. 3 days later, the 2 bodies were discovered by Noblin's father and a search party along the water edge of the James River. On April 9, 1988, Christopher Newport University students Cassandra Lee Haley, 18 years old, and 20-year-old Richard Keith Call were reported missing after attending a party in the University Square area in Newport News during their first day together. Call's red 1982 Toyota Celica was found unoccupied at the York River overlook on the Colonial Parkway the next day with some articles of clothing inside. Neither body has been found, but both are presumed dead. On October 1998, the bodies of 18-year-old Anna Maria Phillips and 19-year-old Daniel Luer were found in the New Kent County by hunters in the woods near a rest area on Interstate 64 by Williamsburg and Richmond. Phillips had been dating Luer's brother at the time they went missing on September 5, 1988, Labor Day weekend, when they vanished en route to Virginia Beach. The hunters discovered the bodies on a logging road about a quarter of a mile from Courthouse Road, a location about a mile from the I-64 New Kent rest stop where Luer's gold 1972 Chevrolet Nova had been found heading in the wrong direction, away from their intended Virginia Beach destination. At least one of the badly decomposed bodies appears to have suffered knife wounds. Many of the investigators at the time all thought the cases were not the same due to the shift in MO. After the case was closed down for some time, in 2010 the case reopened and now there's a new FBI agent from Quantico investigating. The Freeway Phantom. From April 1971 to September 1972, an unidentified serial killer by the name Freeway Phantom raped and strangled 6 African-American youths between the age of 10 to 18 in Washington, D.C. On the evening of April 25, 1971, 13-year-old Carol Spinks was sent by an older sister to buy groceries at a 7-Eleven, located a half away from their home. On her way home from the store, Carol was abducted. Her body was found 6 days later on a grassy embankment next to the northbound lanes of I-295, about 1,500 feet south of the Sweetland Parkway. Over a month later, on July 8, 1971, 16-year-old Darlene Johnson was abducted while on her way to her summer job at a recreation center. 11 days later, her body was discovered only 15 feet from where Spinks' body had been found. On July 27, 1971, 10-year-old Brenda Crockett failed to return home after having been sent to the store by her mother. 3 hours after Brenda was last seen, the phone rang and was answered by her 7-year-old sister, who had waited at home while her family searched the neighborhoods. Brenda was on the other line crying. "A white man picked me up and I'm heading home in a cab," Brenda told her sister, adding that she believed she was in Virginia before abruptly saying bye and hanging up. A short time later, the phone rang again and was this time answered by the boyfriend of Brenda's mother. It was Brenda again, and she merely repeated what she said in the last telephone call, indicating she was all alone in the house with the white male. The boyfriend asked Brenda to have the man come to the phone. Heavy footsteps were heard in the background. Brenda said, "I'll see you," and hung up. A few hours later, a hitchhiker discovered Brenda's body in a conspicuous location at U.S. Route 50, near the Baltimore-Washington Parkway in Prince George County, Maryland. She had been raped and strangled, and a scarf was knotted around her neck. Authorities quickly concluded that Brenda likely called her home at the behest of the killer, who fed her inaccurate information in order to buy the necessary time to commit the crime, and to hamper the investigation. Furthermore, one witness reported having seen one of the victims, Miss Johnson, in an old black car driven by an African-American male, shortly after her abduction. 12-year-old Nanamoshi Yates was walking home from a Safeway store in Northeast Washington, D.C. on October 1, 1971, when she was kidnapped, raped, and strangled. Her body was found within a few hours of her abduction just off the shoulder of Pennsylvania Avenue in Prince George County, Maryland. It is after the murder that the Freeway Phantom nickname was first used in the city tabloid article describing the murders. After having dinner with a high school classmate on November 15, 1971, 18-year-old Brenda Woodward boarded a city bus to return to her Maryland Avenue home. Approximately 6 hours later, a police officer discovered her body stabbed and strangled in a grassy area near a access ramp to Route 202 from the Baltimore-Washington Parkway. A coat had been placed over her chest, and one of its pockets contained a note from the killer. And I quote, "This is tantamount to my insensitivity. To people, especially women. I will admit the others when you catch me if you can. Freeway Phantom." Authorities surmised the note, written on paper cut from the victim's school notebook, was dictated to and handwritten by her. The Phantom's final victim was claimed almost a year later on September 5, 1972. 17-year-old Diane Williams, a senior in Ballou High School, cooked dinner for her family and then visited her boyfriend's house. She was last seen boarding a bus. A short time later, her strangled body was discovered dumped alongside I-295, just south of the district line. The case saw many investigators. All came and went. The best information they got was when they found out it could be someone inside a gang called Green Vega Rapists. They interviewed each member one by one until they got a break in prison. A member was ready to say everything, if he stayed anonymous, which was agreed on, and he told investigators everything about the case, even details no one else knew, and the rapist's name. He had an alibi for that day, so he was never a suspect. During that period, there was an election being held in Maryland where a candidate for the election released that there was a huge break in the case, which made the informant stop talking and deny everything that he ever said. As of now, the case is still unsolved, but still opened as a cold case. The Servant Kill Annihilator. Between the years of 1884 to 1885, the city of Austin, Texas got a serial killer by the name of Servant Killer Annihilator. He axed 8 people in total. The New York Times published an article in December 26, 1885 that said, and I quote, "Murders were committed by some cunning madman who was insane on the subject of killing women." The Servant Annihilator came 3 years before Jack the Ripper, which led many investigators and many authors to think they were the same person, James Maybrick. According to Texas Monthly, 7 women, 5 African American, 2 white, and 1 African American man were murdered. Additionally, 6 women and 2 men were seriously injured. All the victims were attacked indoors while asleep in their beds. 5 of the women were dragged unconscious but still alive and killed outdoors. 3 of the women were severely mutilated while outdoors. All the victims were posed in a similar manner. 6 of the murdered women had a sharp object inserted into their ears. The series of murders ended with the killing of 2 white women, 37-year-old Eula Phillips and Susan Hancock, who was attacked while sleeping in the bed of 16-year-old daughter on the night of December 24, 1885. Eula's husband, James Phillips, was badly injured and was convicted. He was found guilty of murdering his wife, but the conviction was later overturned. Over the years, even up to 2000, many people came out to tell police they saw the killer, but all came out to be nothing. As of now, the case is still open, but also a cold case. The Redhead Murder. The Redhead Murders are a series of unsolved homicides believed to have been committed by an unidentified serial killer in various parts of the United States, including Tennessee, Arkansas, Kentucky, Mississippi, and Pennsylvania. It is thought that the killings occurred between October 1978 and the 1980s, and up until 1992, the victims, many of whom had never been identified, usually had reddish hair, and their bodies were abandoned along major freeways and highways in the United States. Presumably, they were hitchhiking and engaged in prostitution. Authorities are unsure of how many people were responsible for these murders, if they were all performed by the same perpetrator, or how many victims there were. It is believed that a total of 6 to 11 victims were found. It is believed that most of these victims remain unidentified due to them being estranged or not close to the existing family members, or may not have been native to the states in which they were found. In 1985, not long after the Greene County victim was found, the state of Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Arkansas, and Mississippi requested the Federal Bureau of Investigation for assistance with the cases. There were no inconsistencies with some of the victims, as some were found with or without clothing, and some had a sexual encounter before their murders. During the conference, it was stated that the 4 victims found in Texas and the victim found in 1981 in Ohio, nicknamed Buckskin Girl, were ruled out as possible victims in 1985. A possible suspect emerged in the mid-80s when a 37-year-old trucker attacked and attempted to strangle a woman with reddish hair, but was later dismissed, although he had left her lying near a highway, presuming she was dead. Another suspect was a 32-year-old trucker in Pennsylvania who was questioned after kidnapping and raping a young woman in the state of Indiana before she managed to escape. The suspect was also dismissed after being questioned by Tennessee police. As of now, the case still remains open. The Zodiac. We cannot talk about serial killers without talking about the famous Zodiac killer. The Zodiac was around from the late 1960s to the early 1970s in Northern California, more specific Benicio Vallejo, Lake Berryessa, and San Francisco. 4 men and 3 women between the ages of 16 and 29 were targeted. The killer originated the name Zodiac in a series of taunting letters sent to the local Bay Area press. These letters included 4 ciphers. Of those 4 ciphers sent, only one has been definitely solved. Although the Zodiac claims he has 37 kills, police have only been able to connect him to 7, and of those 7, only 2 survived. 20-year-old Brian Calvin Hatnell was stabbed 8 times but lived, and 19-year-old Michael Renault was shot but survived his wounds. The Zodiac's only letter to be solved will read this, and I quote, "I like killing people because it's so much fun. It is more fun than killing wild games in the forest because man is the most dangerous animal of all to kill. Something gives me the most thrilling experience. It is even better than getting your rocks off with a girl. The best part of it is that when I die, I will be reborn in paradise and they have killed will be my slaves. I will not give you my name because you will try to slow down or stop me from collecting my slaves for my afterlife imperium." That was 408 symbol ciphers. The meaning, if any, of the final 18 letters have not been determined. The Zodiac remained silent for nearly 3 years. The Chronicle then received a letter from the Zodiac postmarked January 29, 1974, praising The Exorcist as the best satirical comedy that I have ever seen. The letter included a snippet of verse from the Mikado and an unusual symbol at the bottom that remained unexplained by researchers. Zodiac concluded the letter with a new score. Me, 37. San Francisco Police Department, 0. There have been many suspects in the San Francisco PD list, but many have came to nothing. The case was closed in April 2004, but then reopened as a cold case on March 2007. Thank you for watching our 5 unsolved serial killers. Which was the most interesting to you? Subscribe to stay tuned when we break down into more specific details about these killers and especially the Zodiac. I wish you and your family a Merry Christmas.